Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Monday morning. So, yes, my name is Danielle Buckius. I'm Executive Director of Accreditation and Authorization. A lot of the full-timers know me. If you're a part-timer, welcome, if I haven't seen you before. This is my team. I always like to promote their names and their titles so everyone really knows who they are, and if you see them on campus, you can ask them any of your scintillating compliance-related questions that you might have. So, I see I'm on the schedule for 30 minutes, and I certainly don't plan on talking about accreditation for 30 minutes, so I might buy you a little bit of extra time on your agenda today, Cody. So just a kind of broad overview of what we cover in our department. Our primary responsibility to the university is to maintain compliance with our regional accreditation, the Higher Learning Commission. Every institution of higher education in the U.S., if they want to distribute Title IV federal financial aid, needs to be regionally accredited. Our regional accreditor is the Higher Learning Commission. They're based in Chicago, Illinois. And we also, of course, in our department oversee the specialized or the programmatic accreditors. So these are the ones, I've got the nice little icons up here for you to see, the ones that we currently have. And we are always in the process of researching additional accreditations, certifications, those external badges of quality that indicate that our curriculum, our processes, our faculty and staff have been reviewed by an external body to, again, demonstrate that quality recognition. We also oversee a lot of aspects of federal compliance in our area, so we definitely don't cover all of the federal compliance pieces that an institution of higher ed needs to cover. A lot of that is covered by different areas of the university, like human resources, Title IX, a lot of the things in Blake's area, but we cover a lot of the ones that the regional accreditors care about when you do your comprehensive institutional evaluation. There's things in there that every institution needs to comply with. That's why we ask you to do things like take attendance in your classes. Some of those things that you think might be kind of a pain in the butt, those are actually tied to a federal compliance piece that every institution of higher ed needs to comply with. So things like, does your institution have a student complaint process, and is it easy to find? Again, the things with Title IX compliance, how we distribute our federal financial aid, a lot of those things that you see under the consumer information page on our website, a lot of those are tied to our federal compliance as well. And then you also see state authorization on here, and this wasn't a big topic about 10, 15 years ago, but it really has kind of blown up in the past 7 or 8 years. And so our department covers the state authorization compliance for the university, and this is pretty much, we need, as we are a dynamic institution, and we have been delivering education online for many years, we need to make sure that we're complying with all the states in which we enroll students from. So if a student has an address in Iowa, and we're, instructing them via the internet, we need to make sure that we're compliant with all the state regulations in Iowa. And if our teaching that student, even via the internet, is considered doing business in the state, if we meet that definition in that particular state, then we need to make sure that we've researched and checked all the boxes, filled out all the requisite applications, and become compliant with that state's laws and regulations around doing business. Fortunately, this work has lessened in the past few years. We don't have to go out to every single state anymore and research to make sure that we are okay in that state, as long as it's purely 100% distance education. If it's an online interaction, we can be pretty sure that that's covered in our nationwide reciprocity agreement, which is also known as NC-SARA, the National Council for State Authorization Reciprocity Authority, something like that. I don't know all the acronyms yet, but I'm learning. So But if we do want to do anything on the ground in another state, then yes, we have to go through the whole spiel, get fully authorized in that state. It's usually, a hefty application, a hefty fee, and then just regular upkeep as we continue with the authorization. So it's not as bad as it seems, especially because a lot of our work that concerns students in other states is purely online. So when I give presentations like this, I really try to plug into the audience and determine what is it that you need to hear about accreditation. So when I think about HLC, I think about criterion 3 and 4 in particular. Those ones are all about making sure that we have really quality student services, really quality resources. That includes faculty qualifications. Criterion 4 is all about assessment of student learning. So the faculty expectations component are really covered in core component 3C. So I just wanted to bring your attention to some of these, and it's a good, since we'll be doing these things annually, it'll be a good kind of annual reminder of things to think about as you go through the academic year. So faculty are expected to have oversight of the curriculum and the student performance expectations. This is pretty basic, we know this. Involvement in assessment of student learning. So we need to think about this kind of broadly. We might think about just a few of our faculty being involved in assessment of student learning, maybe just the lead faculty of a program, things like that, but even the part-time faculty have a role to play in this, and how do we assess our student learning and really make sure that we're contributing to that data that drives the decisions to help us improve our curriculum and improve those student learning outcomes. So, are you documenting the feedback that you're receiving on assignments, taking that attendance? All of the ways in which we can assess whether or not a student is actually learning in the classroom. So it's beyond just taking grades. It's listening to the feedback. It's communicating that feedback back to your supervisor. All instructors are appropriately qualified. Again, this seems like a given, but what are the things that we can do specifically at Franklin to make it easier for us to comply with this specific item? So we know that we have digital measures at Franklin for our to document our faculty qualifications, and this is kind of a proactive way that we enable our faculty to do this on our own. So if you achieve a new certification, a new degree, if you publish a new article, if you lead a conference presentation, any of those things that you want to toot your own horn about, toot it on digital measures, because we really need to have that information documented. That shows us and that shows our external regulators how we have quality faculty who are specifically qualified to teach the courses that they are assigned to teach. We use those digital measures reports so much, let me tell you, not just for initial applications, but for ongoing reporting. Every time I send an application to get a new degree program approved to the state of Ohio, I need to include a faculty matrix, they call them, that includes pretty much what you're going to find on digital measures. So again, they want to see if you have earned a new degree or designation, or if you have, and we know at Franklin too, we value the professional experience of our faculty very much. So if you have professional experience that is directly related to the program that you're teaching in, please also include that in digital measures. I can't tell you the amount of times I've had to dig back and do some further diving into our credential files to make sure that we can list professional experience as well as the earned credentials to document and demonstrate why a faculty member is qualified to teach a course. And that's part of Franklin's DNA. As long as I've been here, and I know prior to my coming here, we value hiring faculty members who are professionals in the field, and that makes our students' education more practically applied, and it's a value add for students. So definitely keep that professional experience growing on the digital measures profiles, as well as any earned credentials, badges, anything that you want to call them that you are achieving. All of that is very helpful. Don't just let it become stagnant once you are hired at Franklin. Please always update that information. Instructors are evaluated regularly, so that's another thing that they want to be able to see as well when we do our reauthorizations and our check-ins with the HLC. So whatever shape that might take, I know that we do shadowing sometimes. If there's a document that you need to fill out when you've shadowed an instructor, please make sure you're completing that information. So think about all of if you are evaluating your instructors regularly, make sure you are creating evidence of that regular evaluation so that we can demonstrate that. And again, instructors are current in disciplines and adept in teaching. That goes back to that, making sure your digital measures pages are up to date. That is a way that we demonstrate that instructors are current in their disciplines. Adept in teaching, again, we would go back to evaluations, student comments, things like that. We try to think of all the evidence and the data that we have that can demonstrate to the accreditors that we comply with these items. And then instructors are accessible for student inquiry. So again, whatever we would use to, if there's emails that we would use as evidence for that, we would do so. We might have a statement in a faculty handbook that says instructors must respond to student inquiries within, I'm just guessing, within 48 hours or something like that. How do we demonstrate that that's taking place? So these are things to think about. And then just some additional expectations overall of for how we interact with faculty and how we demonstrate certain compliance features to the HLC. So faculty members have a voice in the institution's shared governance. This can be challenging when you are an institution such as Franklin with a lot of distance programs, with faculty who may never step foot on our campus. How do we make sure that they are continuously involved in the institution's shared governance? Well, I know that in the past with reports that I've filed, some of our departments have regular, hi Martina, good to see you. It's been a while. I was just thinking of you as I was saying this, and then I saw you right there in the audience. I know that some areas have retreats and things like that where you don't just have your full-time faculty, but you also invite part-time faculty as well. That's a great way to involve our adjuncts in shared governance. Make sure that when you have your retreats, you're not just eating and having fun, that you're taking minutes and you're documenting what you talk about at those retreats. If decisions are made, that's a great way to verify that we've got that in writing, that certain decisions were made, that processes have changed. Another way that we involve our part-time faculty is through accreditation visits, and that's been very helpful. When we've had site visits where accreditors have come to campus, to verify information that we put in our applications to launch new programs, we've invited both full-time and part-time faculty, and sometimes they have to call in because they might be located in California. That's okay. Our accreditors understand. So please make sure, and I know I don't have to remind you of this, but this is just part of accreditation, that especially at an institution like this where we do have a lot of remote faculty members, just always make sure that you're thinking of them, involving them in a lot of your meetings and your decision-making, and then documenting that as well. Program advisory boards. This is something that's been coming up a lot more recently, especially as we've been trying to get additional new programs approved. We've had program advisory boards at Franklin for a long time. Just recently, though, when we want to justify market demand, a need for a new program, accreditors are really looking now to these program advisory boards as an additional way that we can demonstrate that practitioners in the industry are saying that there is a need for a program or a need for a major change to an existing program. So I just wanted to put this in here as a reminder. If you have a program advisory board, that's awesome. Continue to utilize them, to meet with them. I know some of them might only meet once a year. If you feel that that's working, great. If you feel that you need to meet more frequently, maybe for an industry that's changing rapidly, do so. That is very much supported and welcomed by the accreditors. Data drives curricular and programmatic changes. This is something, of course, that hasn't changed. The HLC and a lot of our accreditors, they want to see that we're making data-driven programmatic curricular changes. We demonstrate that we do this through a lot of ways when I have to report out, through our regular program review process, through our annual assessment reporting. There's a lot of ways that we can demonstrate, through our Office of Institutional Effectiveness. We seek data very often at our institution. It's very much part of our culture to demonstrate that a change needs to be made. But we're not perfect, and we can always pay attention to this and continue to do it and continue to document that data that we've used to that's directly tied to a specific programmatic change. Accreditors love that. They love data-driven decision-making, and we should too because we're educators. And again, that last point, I don't think I have to go through it again, but it leads to this. So I wanted to remind everybody, we have been working to beef up our community site to make it as useful as possible for everyone. So you will find helpful information on here for you, such as we improved the docket template. If you weren't here for the last reauthorization of accreditation in 2008, that was when the docket template was created. It has been revised, and you shouldn't get that annoying margins message anymore when you go to print it. So you can find that on accreditation's SharePoint site, community site, right now. Please use that again whenever you're having a meeting. You don't have to use our template. We won't take offense, but please use some kind of documentation for your meetings. Sometimes you might ask yourself, I want to make X, Y, and Z change to my program, or I'm thinking about offering an undergraduate certificate and something else. What kind of external approval is needed for this type of change? So we've created a document that shows you that as well. Of course, always feel free to give us a call, but if there's anything that you just want to check quickly, there's this types of approval required document on our SharePoint site that you can look at, and it can help you with those types of questions. Also, the new program approval workflow shows the whole process for getting a new program or a major programmatic change through the internal approval process, and it also kind of pops in and tells you where the external approval process kicks in as well. Glossary, FAQ documents, and the new program template I passed at the top there. That's for the new program proposals and major changes to existing programs. Again, all that is on our SharePoint site, and again, you can always call us, reach out any way that you need to for any questions that you have on any of these items or our processes.